King Kong had over 19 million hair particles on top of his body that was made of several million polygons, which took the VFX team more than a year to create with all its nuances and details. And to make it believable, they had to be meticulous about anatomy, animation, and creating its environment through 1048 shots and roughly 50 minutes of screen time. But before we dive deeper, we have first to talk about what made them go to this extreme level of attention to details. King Kong is one of the few characters and monsters in movie history to have maintained a high level of popularity. The gigantic prehistoric ape made its screen debut in a 1933 movie, and since then it has been recreated numerous times using a variety of visual effects methods, including the stop-motion animation of the first movie, the man-in-a-suit goofiness of King Kong vs. Godzilla, and Andy Serkis's motion capture performance in Peter Jackson's 2005 remake. However, for the 2017 Kong Skull Island, director John Von Roberts requested that Industrial Light and Magic create a new version of the creature to fit the aesthetics of the movie, which was shot on location. The visual effects and animation team at ILM put a lot of effort into the creation of Kong, the movie's titular character, as well as the skull crawlers, stick spiders, a huge water buffalo, and many other dinosaurs that just look like monsters. For Skull Island, the team produced 1048 shots overall and roughly 50 minutes of screen time. The director Jordan wanted to do something different from the previous Kong models. He first wanted it to seem a little less like a simple silverback gorilla and more like a human so that it could interact and display more emotions. And secondly, he wanted it to be different from prior Kong versions while still taking most inspiration from the 1933 original Kong. The team used a different process to create the model than they had in the past. When they first discussed the idea, they did what any team would do eventually, which is to gather a lot of movement references and footage. But after having the first discussion with Jordan, they changed tracks a little bit, where Kong was not gonna be a quadruped, because he's gonna stand out upright. Therefore, for the director, it was more important to return to the idea of a cinematic monster than simply depict a large gorilla. So in order to make him unique, the team sculpted him while maintaining his shorter legs and very long arms. They also added additional space between his torso and ribcage to allow him to stand up. But the crew had a difficult time creating his face since Jordan wanted it to appear like you were able to clearly see the craziness in his eyes while also being extremely detailed and realistic so he could have some extreme close-up shots. What helped with that is some microscopic images that they were able to take from a real-life gorilla from a zoo. This helped them to better understand and take a closer look at the complex details of the gorilla's body and face, leading to the creation of a model that was incredibly detailed. Although the team hasn't disclosed how many polygons the Kong model had before retopology, I believe it could have been around 10 million or even more, which is completely insane but also demonstrates how powerful the sculpting software ZBrush can get when dealing with many polygons. The model overall had over 500,000 after retopology, with more than half of the polygons focusing on the face and hands. For animation, it was hard to determine which technique to use when animating this kind of unique creature, and by that, I mean particularly when it comes to performance. The team went through different approaches as to whether to use motion capture or pure animation. The animation team did a little bit of both, where they worked with the actor Terry Notary to do some body performance work, and the team had a couple of days in motion capture where Jordan could iterate very quickly with Terry to work through different scenes and then also try different movement patterns. Additionally, the team had a second motion capture session with the actor Toby Kebbell, and they did this for the purpose of facial animation. They had a day to work through some of these sequences, especially the last action-packed ones where you have a lot of time to focus on Kong's eyes and the movements of his face. There are some shots where the facial capture is used directly, but through the production process and reworking of the scenes, a lot of what Kong needed to do changed so much that the capture was used a lot more as inspiration and moments to pull from. After that, a large portion of the animation was ultimately keyframed, and it was absolutely crucial to do so, especially when attempting to demonstrate Kong's 100-foot height and huge weight. It took a lot of time to keyframe all the face animations since the director wanted the audience to empathize with Kong. And for that to happen, they had to do a lot of facial experimentations, especially for the eyes. Animating the skull crawler was also a big challenge for the animators, because it was hard to figure out how they walk, the speed of their walking, and also how to add weight to their walking. But before we continue, let me tell you about today's video sponsor. You may know Skillshare for photography, video editing, and illustration classes, but it actually has many animation, game development, and VFX focused classes. Have you been eager to learn about geometry nodes lately? If so, I highly recommend this class called Your First Geometry Nodes Project by Bad Normals, who is a popular YouTuber known for his incredible geometry nodes work. This class is made up of 1.5 hours of video content divided into 12 lessons. And following this course, you will learn all the principles of geometry nodes in Blender 3 and beyond, allowing you to model things that can be hard to create, such as nature. The techniques and mindsets that you're gonna learn can also be applied to pretty much any node-based software, such as Houdini. Overall, the class doesn't cover a lot of theory and jumps straight to the good stuff. So the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. When it comes to the rigging process, it included many steps. The first one was to rig the bones and giving the animators a control system so they could animate it. And then after getting the animation back, the team built a muscle system underneath to simulate those muscles. After that, they made another layer that basically served as a skin, which will be simulated with the muscles so you could see them moving around underneath the skin. For example, you can see the shoulder blade move and slide under the skin. And on top of all of that is when the model can finally have hair. Actually, the most amazing part of the making of this movie is the hair part. It was so difficult to do because not only the team had to add hair to Kong, but they also needed that hair to interact with what was going on to Kong's body. For example, when Kong bleeds, the hair needs to have blood on top of it on some specific places. It also needed to interact with the water and with a lot of other stuff. Kong had overall over 19 million hair particles on top of his body, which is completely insane. And the styling and trimming of it were done almost by hand, which took over a year to complete, I mean just the hair. The hair was simulated separately from his body, and the team had to figure out how to mess it up throughout the course of the movie because, as we said before, Kong accumulated damage, so they needed to know how to make the fur interact with the action, which is something that was never done before. The director Jordan wanted something different from the typical gorilla hair, so the team made sure to make the fur look not clean, which required an insane amount of detail. The team also added some elements on top of his hair to make it look very dirty. For example, they added leaves, mud, and twigs. The hair also needed to react with fire, where the fur would have a whole new look where there is a lot of singed and burned fur, so the team had to do some technology development to figure out how to sustain that damage throughout the film for the purpose of continuity. Setting the scene was also interesting because, although the film shoot was done in Australia, Hawaii, and Vietnam, the director wanted the scene to look like it is all in Vietnam. So the team started by building the set of all the mountains by having a LiDAR scan and having tons of photo shoots. And then after building the set, the team needed to define where all of these actions are happening and where to place all the added objects. Overall, this was a huge project for everyone at ILM who worked very hard to make it happen. And hopefully this will make it one of the best ones when it comes to VFX. Personally, I have watched it twice, and for some reason, I want to watch it even a third time, because it is that good. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. You can also take a look at some of our previous videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.